Have you ever thought about launching a side hustle in Indiana, but under a catchy new name? Well, welcome to this explainer. Today we're going to walk you through the exact steps to securely, and most importantly, legally, brand your business in the Hoosier State. Whether you're starting fresh or expanding an existing company, we've got you covered.
But first, I've got to ask you a pretty serious question. Are you currently doing business in Indiana under a name that is anything other than your exact legal name? Because if you are, you might actually be taking a massive risk without even realizing it.
Here's why. Under Indiana state law, operating under an unregistered assumed name is classified as a Class B infraction. And guess what? That can slap you with a fine of up to $1,000. Seriously, $1,000? That's a super costly mistake for what's really just an avoidable administrative oversight. Properly registering your brand is absolutely crucial to ensure you're compliant and your everyday business operations are totally protected.
All right, let's look at our agenda so you can avoid those penalties entirely. We'll be covering 1. What an Indiana DBA actually is. 2. Preparation and name searching. 3. The step-by-step registration process. 4. Post-registration and maintenance. And 5. Some common pitfalls, insights, and our standard disclaimer.
Okay, Section 1. What exactly is an Indiana DBA?
So we really need to clarify what a DBA means in Indiana, because the terminology is very specific. While the business world casually throws around terms like DBA, which stands for doing business as, or fictitious name, Indiana law uses its own lingo. Under Indiana Code Title 23, the official statutory term is an assumed business name. Registering this simply allows you to operate publicly under a name that isn't your legal entity name. But keep in mind, filing an assumed business name doesn't magically create a new legal entity. It doesn't give you trademark protection, and it doesn't change your tax status. It literally just gives you the green light to legally operate under that specific brand.
Now, you might be wondering, so how does this differ from an LLC? Well, an assumed name gives you tremendous branding flexibility. It's like a giant umbrella. A single entity can run several distinct product lines without having to form a brand new company for each one. But here's the catch. A DBA offers absolutely zero liability protection. If your business gets sued, your personal assets are completely exposed. An LLC, on the other hand, is a totally separate legal entity that shields your personal assets. It does cost more and requires ongoing compliance, but remember, they aren't mutually exclusive. Say your LLC is legally named Get Up and Work LLC, but you want the sign on your new coffee shop to just say Get Up and Go. Your LLC has to register that assumed business name to make it happen.
Moving right along to Section 2, Preparation and Name Search. Before you fill out a single form or pay a dime, you have to prove your new assumed business name is entirely unique. You can't just swipe a name someone else is already using in the state. To guarantee your name is unique, you're going to need to roll up your sleeves and check a few databases. First up, hit the INBiz business search portal provided by the Indiana Secretary of State. Next, check the Indiana Trademark Search. And don't forget the federal USPTO Trademark Electronic Search System. Most people just call that TESS. Finally, if you're registering locally, you've got to check your county recorder's records. Some counties, like Lake County, have a super handy online search. But for others, you might actually have to call the recorder's office directly to verify.
All right, Section 3, the step-by-step registration process.
Once you know your name is completely unique, it's filing time. And here's where the Indiana process is kind of interesting. It branches into two very distinct paths, depending entirely on your business structure. If you're a sole proprietor or a general partnership doing business under a different name, you must file locally. You take your certificate of assumed business name to the county recorder in the county where you primarily do business. But if your business is an incorporated entity, like an LLC or a corporation, you bypass the county entirely. You have to file your assumed name at the state level with the Secretary of State using their INBiz online portal.
So, once you know your path, the filing flow really just boils down to 3 simple steps. Step 1, secure the name availability like we just talked about. Step 2, complete the right paperwork. If you're on the state path through INBiz, you're looking for State Form 3353, which you can knock out online, by mail, or in person. If you're on the county path, the local recorders usually have their own specific forms. And finally, Step 3, just pay the applicable filing fee.
Speaking of fees, how does this impact your budget? Well, state-level filings are straightforward. $30 per assumed business name for for-profit corporations and LLCs, and $26 for nonprofits. Now, for the sole proprietors and general partnerships filing at the county level, the recording fee starts at a baseline of $25 plus an extra $5 per additional page. But remember, this varies by county. In Marion County, for instance, that baseline fee is actually $35. But here's a real bonus for Indiana filers across the board. There is absolutely no expensive newspaper publication requirement. That saves you a ton of hassle and money compared to other states.
On to Section 4, Post-Registration and Maintenance.
Okay, so your paperwork is approved, your fee is paid, and you're officially ready to roll. But what about annual upkeep? Well, you are going to be absolutely thrilled to hear this. Indiana is incredibly business-friendly when it comes to DBA maintenance. There is absolutely no expiration date or renewal requirement for an assumed business name. Once it's filed, it's yours. The only catch? If you ever stop using the brand or close up shop, you must officially file a notice of discontinuance with the exact same office where you originally filed.
And finally, Section 5, Pitfalls, Insights, and our disclaimer.
Let's wrap up this explainer by looking at a major pitfall you definitely want to avoid: showing up at your bank empty-handed. You can't just stroll into a bank and ask them to open an account under a new brand name. Indiana banks almost always require you to present your officially filed, registered assumed business name certificate before they'll let you open a commercial account or accept checks made out to that brand. Plus, doing this right keeps your personal identity off public branding and shows your customers that you're a legitimate, established business.
Now, while we've laid out this framework based on Indiana state resources, it's so important to remember that regulations, fees, and processes can have subtle nuances. They change over time, and they can vary by local jurisdiction. Because your specific situation might have quirks we couldn't cover in this generic advice, please always consult with a legal professional or business advisor to make sure your entity is 100% compliant. So now that you know exactly how to avoid those hefty fines, navigate the state versus county filing paths, and get your brand officially recognized in the state of Indiana, what is the name that's going to become your Indiana business legacy? Thanks so much for joining us for this explainer, and we'll catch you next time.